So we're going to start with the aces always, and we're going to start with the wands. So Ace of Wands is a card that really shows kind of like a flash of inspiration, I like to say. You know, it shows new growth. These yods, that's what they're called, these little leaves, they represent new life. This image also has been, talked about as being sort of phallic in nature. So there's this sort of reproductive aspect to this card where it really shows kind of like an ambition to create, an ambition to create something that didn't exist before. So there's this rush of energy and inspiration with this card. And as an ace, all of the aces represent sort of potential. They represent opportunities, things that are presented that we can take advantage of. So this one in particular can be inspiration that you feel that you can act on, but you don't have to. All of the aces are options, but we would need to sort of grasp, like the hand in this picture, we would need to grasp that energy and use it for something if we want to see this, become manifested. Aces are all very sort of ephemeral. They're all pictured as things being offered from the sky. So it's something that is like a resource, a new opportunity, something that's being offered that we can choose to take advantage of. So in a self-therapy reading, it can point to an opportunity for new inspiration, maybe something hopeful coming up for you, that if you've been feeling down or if you've been feeling a lack of energy, this could be showing that the energy is going to come back. You are going to be feeling more vitalized and you are going to be feeling more excited and inspired. Another thing with just the wands in general, before we move on to the rest of the cards, is that the suit of wands really relates to the creative fire, in general. It's your energy, it's your ambition to do things, your drive. That's really the wands. It's that sort of essence that propels you forward and motivates you to create things or to achieve things in your life. So all of the wands are very active. And you'll also find that with tarot, the cards are actually telling us a story, which is why I laid them all out like this, so that we could look at them as a whole, because they do tell a story. This is a progression from sort of like the first idea to sort of the eventual manifestation. And that's sort of another key that we can touch on again when we get to the 10. But essentially what tarot is telling us is that if we live our life purely driven by ambition to create things, or ambition to, for example, improve our lives or create something, or, make money or do something in the world, if we work purely from a place of ambition and drive, we may end up sort of in the 10 of Wands place, which is maybe biting off more than we can chew, or feeling burdened by everything that we've taken on. There's a lot of responsibility with this path, and we might feel a little bit tired. So we kind of need to balance the wand suit with some of the other energies, with perhaps some cups energy, or some pentacle groundedness, because the wand's energy on its own is connected with fire. And so fire just burns and it can burn itself out. So that's kind of the essential theme of the story of the wands, is that you can make a lot of progress with this action-oriented energy, but you also need to temper that with some more feminine energies, some more receptive energies, or you're going to end up feeling a bit tired and burnt out. So once we pass through the Ace of Wands, we get to the Two of Wands. This card, like all twos, reflects duality. This person is holding a globe and looking out over a wall. He's holding onto one wand, which is free from the wall. And if you notice, the other wand is actually bolted down behind him. So the Two of Wands is typically about assessing and looking at like where you would like to go. It's like now that you've had this sort of flash of inspiration, you kind of have to make some choices about how you want to proceed. This person hasn't left yet. He's still on the inside of the wall, so he's still making some decisions and sort of planning and mapping out. He's also in sort of a partial profile. He's not completely turned away from the viewer, so it kind of shows that he's not completely on his journey yet. So in a self-therapy reading, for example, or any reading, this card can point to the need to kind of process things and think about where you want to go, make some creative decisions, do some planning, and really sort of have some foresight. And also know that if you are having a trouble, having an issue sort of making a decision, you will have more clarity as to which sort of wand is going to come free for you. So if you're choosing between two potential creative paths or, choosing between anything, this card is, saying that through some planning and foresight and really just kind of preparing for your journey before you leave, before you start, whatever it is, you're going to get a sense of which way to go. But if you don't feel that yet, that's okay. You're still kind of picking up wands and seeing which one is going to come free for you. So that's the Two of Wands. The Three of Wands shows somebody who's ready to go. This person has completely turned his back on the viewer. He is on the edge of new lands. In some ways, and I actually didn't notice this for the first few years that I was reading cards, but there's actually ships in this image. So it's kind of weird because the ocean looks like desert and the ships sort of don't necessarily look like ships. So to me, that really says that with the Three of Wands, it's like you've done as much preparation and planning as you can. And now you're ready to sort of start out on your journey. And there's still going to be some unknowns. There's still going to be some things that you're not maybe totally prepared for, but you've done everything that you can as far as preparation, and now it's time to take those initial steps. I like to compare this card to the Fool card because they both show somebody on the edge of a precipice about to start a new journey. However, this person is relying on their resources and the research that they've done in the past. They've done their homework, I like to say, and now they're sort of starting out on a new journey, but they're actually starting from a place of like having gathered wisdom, as opposed to the Fool, which is somebody who's just sort of kind of going along with it without any sense of where they're going or any preparation. And there's a time for that Fool energy, and there's a time for the Three of Wands energy. But this is a good card for, in a self-therapy reading. It does let you know that you're ready. It lets you know that you've done as much as you can up to this point and you're ready to go. So don't hold back. The Four of Wands is a card of celebration. It is typically associated with a happy home life. It's often, I've seen it in a lot of decks, depicting a kind of coming of age ceremony. So some decks have made it into sort of a ritual, a coming of age sort of ceremony, or a marriage, or, something that it's a situation where other people are with you and they're kind of publicly recognizing that you've reached a certain point in your growth as a person, so there's a sense of increasing maturity and a sense of having accomplished, some sort of milestone. So this can be a graduation or a marriage or a birthday party, or, it's just a lot of different ways that this energy can play out, but it's very connected to the family, your friendships, your home life, and just a really happy card of stability and celebration. So it's always a really nice blessing card. And, it can point to working from home as well, or being happy at home, being happy within yourself, celebrating your accomplishments. But there's still a ways to go. This is just a 4, so it's kind of like a celebration, and then you keep going. All of the fives in tarot are going to produce some element of conflict, and the Five of Wands is definitely no exception. This card, if you'll open a tarot book, a lot of times it will talk about these people being children. So it can point to sort of maybe playful disputes or kind of disagreements that are not super challenging, but they can be a little bit frustrating. Disagreements between people, it's not the most serious thing, but it's something that does kind of tend to maybe get under your skin a little bit. It can point to sort of people being in a situation that are working at cross purposes, because all of these wands are kind of aiming in different directions. And generally, it just has to do with sort of a need for organizing and a need for more clear communication. This card definitely is one of those in the deck that for me symbolizes dealing with other people and kind of recognizing how everybody doesn't always have the same view or the same goal or the same perspective on how to achieve that goal. So there could be a little bit of dispute going on, but it's, again, not very serious. It's something that can be resolved through just a continued commitment to honesty and forthrightness and, a compassionate listening, I feel, is very important when this card comes up. Like, let's say you're doing a self-therapy reading and you have a relationship question and this card comes up in between you and your significant other. This is really about, being open, putting down your wand and being a compassionate listener. Just being willing to open your ears and quiet your mind and hear each other out, because there's a lot of voices talking over each other in this image. So we do see progress being made. It does feel like a very different energy with these wands all kind of moving in the same direction. This person on the Six of Wands is victorious. This is a traditional card of success and triumph. He's got this victory laurel up here, and he is decorated. So this card almost makes me feel like there's a parade going on or some kind of celebration representing someone's accomplishments. So with wands, as you can really get a sense, being the suit of fire, the suit of wands, it's very much about your accomplishments, your ambitions, your goals, and the things that you do to achieve them. So all of this that we've talked about has to do with the process of growth through action and desire, self-motivated desire to improve your life in some way or to contribute in some way, to have some sort of sense of growth in the world. So this card is a card of success. When this comes up in a reading, a lot of times it really just means that you or the client is experiencing some kind of success, and maybe it's a hint that you should honor that a bit more, or be a bit more conscious of what you've done right, be more conscious of what you've achieved and honor the work that you've put in, because a lot of times this is a card that has to do with coming out of an ordeal. If we were to, again, look at this like a story, the Five of Wands is the conflict, and then this person has sort of come triumphantly through it. So it is triumph after a challenge. If you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's work, this would sort of be the depiction of the end of the hero's journey, where the hero returns to the village with the elixir. So that's after the whole story arc has happened. They've, faced a bunch of challenges, and now they're sort of returning home and experiencing the benefit of, all the hard work that they've just done. But the harmony of the six doesn't last long. We have the Seven of Wands, and the Seven of Wands shows this person, it could be the same person, sort of standing their ground. So it's interesting because Pamela Coleman Smith put two different shoes on this person's feet. And this kind of makes me feel like this person doesn't necessarily know where they stand, or there's this sense of not being in alignment within their own kind of self, but they're having to justify their actions or justify their stance or hold their ground in the face of these other wands that are poking up. Now, as you grow and develop as a reader and read cards more intuitively, this card may actually be somebody, you might see these wands as people who are supporting this person, and this person is kind of rallying the troops or, making a speech or something. He doesn't necessarily have to be fighting off the wands, although that often is like the way that this card comes across. There's a lot of different ways that this could play out. So with the Seven of Wands, it is kind of about being strong in your position, recognizing where being strong in your position or strong in your sort of self-expression is going to be helpful, and where that is actually harming your relationships. Like, where is this sense of defensiveness a positive thing? Where are you actually creating boundaries and being clear and standing up for yourself? And where are you kind of creating unnecessary drama and perhaps not even sure if your position is the one that you actually are, feeling good about internally? Like, where are you uncertain about your position, and where are you actually, being very true to yourself? That's always something to look at with this card. Seven of Wands. All the sevens are, about kind of assessing sort of where you are and facing part of what you've been through. As a seven, it is kind of a spiritual turning point in the story, as we, which kind of brings us into the last sort of section of cards. So a lot of times with the sevens, it is about kind of looking at what you're doing, looking at your present stance, looking at your life, and figuring out like what feels true about it and what you need to change or what you need to sort of let go of or modify. As an eight, the Eight of Wands connects to, all eights connect to power and kind of movement, I would say. So this card in particular is very clear about movement being the theme. For me, this card is actually one of the simplest cards to interpret, because it literally just shows 8 wands hurling through the sky, and they already have, their aim. They already know where they're going, so they're already in transit. And so this to me is a perfect image to describe the idea of momentum and having things having their own sense of momentum. So all you really have to do is just get on the train, join this energy that's already in motion in your life, and it will carry you. This is a card of a lot of forward action and, things just being very open. Like, it makes me feel like the gateways are open, the roadways are open, you don't have any sort of stumbling blocks or speed bumps in the way. It's really just about going for it. So when that card comes up in a self-therapy reading, it is just about taking action and keeping it simple. Recognize that whatever you're working on, just keep it simple, because you don't have the figure in here, so we don't have a personality. It's saying go with this sort of impersonal sense of momentum and just take action and make it happen, because you will find a lot of progress. With the Nine of Wands, we see somebody who looks a little bit beat up. This is someone who maybe has been through a lot. He's been through this whole kind of process of growth and transformation, and now he's feeling a little bit tired. I had a client look at this card and say, she said, "That's me." And I said, "What is? Like, tell me what about this is you?" And she said, "I'm in the woods. I feel like I'm in the woods." So she was looking at these wands and feeling like they were trees, and she wasn't really able to see the forest through the trees, if that makes sense. So this card can be about really being in the thick of something that's challenging and not really having the bigger perspective of what you're going through, because you're at that kind of most grueling stage of it where you just been working for months, or, you're tired and you just feel like you have to muster up that last bit of strength, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, no matter how injured or tired you feel, and just keep going, because, you are almost at the 10, so you are going to be near the finish line, and it is just about kind of sticking with it. So persistence, perseverance. As a 9, it is close to endings, and it's really about just knowing that you do have a little bit further to go, but you are very near to the end of, whatever it is that you're experiencing right now. So just have faith, dig deep for that strength and stamina within yourself, because you are going to turn a new page, and you are going to find that, it pays off, but right here you might be feeling a little bit exhausted with that 9 of Wands. Now, with the 10 of Wands, this is the last Wands card, and it's really about being overwhelmed, being overworked, being burnt out, having too much responsibility, or, taking a very sort of mundane approach to your responsibilities. This person is kind of a day laborer, and he's holding the wands in front of his face. So to me, it feels like he can't even really see through them. And it kind of gives me a backache, the way that he's holding the wands. It just doesn't seem like a very intelligent way to hold the wands. It feels like he's just so mentally tired that he's just holding them in a very inopportune stance, because he's just too tired to even think about a better solution. So with this card coming up in a self-therapy reading or any reading, it is, I feel, oftentimes a very positive indication that you're putting too much emphasis on something, or you're overworking yourself and you're giving yourself too much responsibility. So it's really just about letting go. Recognizing that you have the best intentions, recognizing that you are only one person ultimately, and you can only do so much. So it's time to let yourself off the hook a little bit and put down some of those wants. Maybe ask for help, or extend your deadline, or just, give yourself permission to slow down a little bit, because you can't keep going at this rate. And it is going to require a change in perspective in order for you to really achieve what you're going after. So it's time to, maybe ask for some help, or balance some of this wand energy, this ambitious energy, with a little bit more love, with the cups energy, or, pentacle energy, slower moving, let yourself kind of, let things kind of proceed at the right timing. Don't try and force things, because you're just exhausting yourself. That's the 10 of Wands. And as a 10, it is an ending card. So it's really just like a sigh of relief. It's saying, put this down, you have permission to sort of let go and start fresh. So that is the numbered Wands cards. Now we'll look at the Court cards. The Page of Wands is my card of the art student, I like to call him. He is very enthusiastic about learning new things. All pages in tarot are associated with kind of learning new things, being a student, but they're also representative of, news coming in, or a new opportunity maybe, or like a new message coming to you, either from spirit or someone in the physical. So this page and any other page will really be read intuitively based on, its position in the spread. It can also point to your inner child and the need to be more playful and more creative, in particular with this one. So we go from the page to the knight, and it's interesting because we have all these fire symbols on, the flames on the page's boots and in his little flame feather in his hat. And then we can see sort of that the fire grows with the Knight of Wands to his flames are bigger, and they're coming off of his arms and, out of his hat, his helmet. And this card just has even more sort of fire written into it. The Knight of Wands is, a card that shows a rate of progress. It's a card that, if it's not referring to an actual person, which could be, a younger person, traditionally not as young as the page, but somebody who's, maybe a teenager, if we're looking really at the traditional ways of reading the cards. It could be referring to a person who is fiery, outgoing, charismatic, someone who gets a lot done, or who moves really quickly. But this, to me, also shows rate of progress. All of the Knights show kind of how things are transitioning, how fast or how slow the energy is moving. So the Knight of Wands is a very fast-moving energy. A lot of times this card, for me, especially when it comes up in readings with the Eight of Wands, shows moving, or, changing your home life or changing your career, something along those lines. It's really about like a big kind of transition that you're initiating yourself, and it's just happening very quickly. So this is about stating your intention. Knight of Wands is like, proceed courageously, don't have any fear, go for it. But don't be foolhardy. Do your best to sort of finish things that you start. I like to say the Knight of Wands is a great starter, but he's not the greatest finisher, because he can get so passionate about things so quickly that he can sort of be really excited about one thing and then change direction completely if the journey seems a little bit too boring for him. So don't be distracted by shiny things when this card comes up, but do proceed with courage. You're being given creative license to just say what you feel and be brave and put yourself out there and proceed with just trust, that you are putting your energy into something worthwhile. The Queen of Wands, I like to call her my Queen of Self-Knowledge. As the Queen of Fire, she is, she's very subjective. Fire knows itself, but it doesn't necessarily empathize very well with others, but it really knows itself. And we'll go into this in the PDF. I'm not going to include it in all the cards in this video because the video would be way too long, but basically she's someone who, as a queen, all queens are connected to water. And so she's the water of fire. So that's kind of her elemental breakdown. So all of the queens have the reflective inward qualities of water mixed with the quality of the suit. So she's fire that turns inward and sort of is able to reflect and know itself. She's also very charismatic. She's very outgoing. She represents your personal power, your choice, your ability to persuade others in a way that is not negative at all, but just very much kind of like you're in tune with the concept of getting to an agreement with someone where you are both getting what you want out of the situation. Like, she's very good at organizing solutions like that, and she really just makes sure that she gets what she wants, basically, in any interaction. So this is about personal power, knowing yourself, and being willing to sort of communicate on your own behalf and speak up, and go for your desires. The King of Wands is, again, kind of like the externalized version. If queens are internal and watery, kings are external and sort of earthy. So this King of Wands, he's kind of like the earth of fire in a way. So he's very grounded, but he's also very passionate. He, similar to the Queen of Wands, is very persuasive. He's somebody who's always sort of looking out for opportunities. This is a really strong card for men in creativity and entrepreneurship. So when this card comes up, it could be referring to you or someone in your life who is really awakening their sense of creative entrepreneurship and, taking advantage of opportunities. I like to think of this king as somebody who really rides waves. He's someone who will notice that, for example, a certain thing is gaining popularity, and he will go and invest in, that type of company, or he will get involved somehow because he can see the trends. So he's very passionate, he's very energetic, he's a great leader. And, either any of these cards can come up to show the personality of a man or a woman. So a king could come up for, to represent a woman. I pulled this card a lot for myself when I was starting my tarot business. And it was referring to me, being entrepreneurial and very creative and being bold, about what I was doing and communicating with the world and sharing, my inspirations and my interests in a very external way, whereas maybe the Queen of Wands would know herself, but not necessarily broadcast it as much as the King of Wands. However, they can both be quite outspoken because they both are, the King and Queen of Fire. So those are the Wands court cards, and I hope that this has been helpful for you as just a really brief rundown of the traditional meanings. Okay guys, I'll see you in the next video.